chosen one. Something has just been uncovered about your life, and you were not supposed to find it this late. There is a reason your spirit feels pulled right now, like something deeper is trying to get your attention. Because in the unseen, a record has been reopened and it carries your name. Not a general promise, not something vague, but something specific that was written, preserved, and now revealed. Anointed One, think about the season that changed you. The one you don't talk about much. The moment where things didn't just shift, they fell apart in a way you couldn't fully explain. You moved forward, you adapted, you rebuilt. But something in you always knew the story wasn't finished. That feeling was not imagination. It was interruption. Scripture tells us in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 that there is a time for every purpose under heaven. And what you experienced was not the end of your story, it was the pause before the release. You were never overlooked. You were being covered. This is your moment to understand what was really happening behind the silence. And if this message resonates, stay connected here, because what follows is not just insight, it is alignment. Chosen one. Before anything can be released, there is something heaven is waiting on, and it is not your effort, it is your agreement. Right now, in this moment, there is a quiet exchange happening in the unseen. Not loud, not dramatic, but decisive. And it hinges on one simple question: are you ready to receive what was always yours? Because many people want blessings, but they are not positioned to recognize them when they arrive. So I need you to do something not as a ritual, not as a habit, but as a conscious alignment. Whisper it, type it, or say it in your own way. I am ready. I receive what was written for me. This is not about words, it is about permission. Anointed One. I've learned something in my own life. There were seasons where doors kept closing and I thought I was being rejected. I questioned myself. I questioned God. I tried to force things to happen. But later, I realized something that changed everything. Some doors were not closed because I was unworthy. They were closed because I was not yet aligned with what was prepared. And alignment is what opens what effort cannot. So lean in with me, because what I'm about to reveal will reframe the last 7 years of your life. There is a place not physical, not visible, but real. A place where your life is not guessed. It is recorded, where nothing about you is random, where every moment, every connection, every provision has already been accounted for. The ancient writings spoke about it in different ways. Some called it the books being opened. Others described it as scrolls sealed and revealed at appointed times. But the meaning is the same. Your life has always had structure. Your future has always had timing. And your name has always been known. Chosen One. Nothing about you slipped through the cracks. Every opportunity that was meant for you has a record. Every connection that was meant to find you has a time stamp. Every breakthrough assigned to your life has already been written. And here is the part most people never understand. The opposition you faced was not random. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how certain things in your life didn't just fail? They collapsed. How some relationships didn't just fade, they broke suddenly. How opportunities didn't just pass, they disappeared at the last second. That is not normal resistance. That is targeted interruption. Because there are moments in your life where the pressure feels disproportionate to the situation, where it feels like something is pushing harder than it should, where you start asking yourself, why does everything fall apart right when it's about to come together? I've been there. There was a time in my life where every time I got close to stability, something would disrupt it. Not once, not twice, repeatedly. And I thought I was the problem. But I wasn't, and neither are you. Chosen One. When something carries weight in the spirit, it also attracts resistance. Not because you are weak, but because what is attached to your future carries impact. And there are things that cannot afford for you to fully step into what has been prepared. So the attack was not just against you. It was against the delivery system of your life. Connections that were meant to elevate you, interrupted. Opportunities that were meant to establish you, delayed. Paths that were meant to open, blocked at precise moments. It was strategic, not to destroy you completely, but to keep you in a cycle of almost breakthrough, almost stability, almost fulfillment. And that kind of cycle does something to a person. It creates doubt. It creates fatigue. It makes you question your own timing, your own worth, even your own faith. But here is the truth you were never told. There was a moment when heaven saw what was happening and made a decision on your behalf, not to abandon you, but to protect what belonged to you, chosen one. There are times when what is meant for you cannot be released yet, not because you are not ready, but because the environment around you is not safe for it. Because if it had arrived in that season, it would have been corrupted, the right relationship would have been damaged, the right opportunity would have become a trap, the right provision would have been mishandled or taken, so instead of releasing it into a compromised season, it was withheld, not denied, not cancelled, preserved. And I know how that feels, because preservation looks like loss when you are inside of it. It looks like silence. It feels like delay. It sounds like unanswered prayers. But what you were experiencing was not absence. It was protection in disguise. Every closed door was not rejection. It was interception. Every ending was not failure. It was filtration. Every delay was not punishment. It was positioning. And I need you to hear this clearly. Anointed one, nothing that was meant for you was ever lost. It was stored, and not just stored, multiplied in waiting. There is a principle written in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3. It says the vision waits for its appointed time. It may seem slow, but it will not delay forever. That means there is a difference between delay and appointment. And you have just stepped into the moment where what was waiting is no longer waiting. This is where everything begins to shift, because what was once sealed is no longer hidden. What was once protected is now being prepared for release, and what comes next is not random. It is specific, it is intentional, and it is already written. But before you can fully receive it, you need to understand what exactly is about to be released into your life and why it had to wait until now. Chosen one, there is something you need to understand now, because this is where everything begins to make sense in a way it never has before. What was preserved for you was not vague, not symbolic, not abstract. It was specific. It was detailed. It was structured with intention. Heaven did not just store blessings for you. It recorded assignments, exact outcomes, and precise replacements for everything that was disrupted. What is being opened over your life right now is not random favor. It is a release of what was already written. And inside what was preserved, there are defined movements that are now beginning to activate in real time. You are not stepping into guesswork. You are stepping into execution. The first shift you will begin to notice does not look dramatic at first, but it will feel different in a way you cannot ignore. It has to do with connection. Not surface-level interaction, not temporary companionship, but something deeper that your spirit recognizes before your mind understands. Because one of the most painful disruptions in your life came through a relationship that did not end the way it should have. It left questions, it left weight, it left something unresolved inside of you that you carried longer than you expected. You may have tried to replace it. You may have tried to move forward quickly, or maybe you did the opposite and shut everything down, telling yourself you would never open up like that again. Either way, something stayed incomplete, and what you did not know is that the connection you lost was never meant to go where you thought it would. It was a lesson that prepared you, not a destination that was supposed to hold you. I have seen this pattern in my own life. There was someone I once believed would be part of my future in a permanent way. I invested time, energy, belief. And when it ended, it did not just hurt, it confused me. I kept asking why something that felt so aligned could fall apart so completely. But looking back now, I can see clearly that what I thought was alignment was actually preparation. It was shaping me for something that required a different level of awareness, a different level of stability, and a different kind of connection. And that is exactly what is being released toward you now. There is someone whose path has been moving parallel to yours for a long time. You have not met them yet, or maybe you have crossed paths without realizing it, but they have been going through their own process at the same time you have been going through yours. While you were learning what you needed to release, they were learning what they needed to become. While you were being separated from what could not stay, they were being prepared to step into something that could. This is not a rushed connection. It is not built on intensity or confusion. It carries clarity. It carries steadiness. It feels different because it is not trying to fill a wound. It is arriving when the wound is no longer controlling you. And when it begins, it may not look like what you expected. It could start as a simple conversation that holds more depth than usual. It could feel familiar in a way that does not make logical sense. You may notice a sense of calm instead of anxiety, a sense of recognition instead of uncertainty. That is how you will know this is not something you are forcing. This is something that was released. Chosen one, do not overanalyze it when it happens. Do not try to control it. And most importantly, do not reject it because it does not match the pattern of your past. What is coming is not repeating what you experienced before. It is replacing it. And at the same time this begins to unfold, something else will start shifting in a different area of your life, one that has been a source of quiet pressure for longer than you have admitted to anyone. Your financial situation. Not just in terms of money, but in terms of stability, flow, and consistency. Because there has been a pattern there too, a pattern where things come together and then fall apart, where progress begins and then stalls, where effort does not match results. And after a while, that creates a kind of internal tension that you carry even when you are not talking about it. You become careful. You become cautious. You start expecting delays before things even happen. And that expectation shapes how you move, how you decide, and sometimes even how much you allow yourself to receive. But what you did not know is that there were opportunities tied to your life that were never allowed to fully arrive. Not because you missed them, but because they were not released into the environment you were in at the time. The systems around you were not aligned. The people involved were not positioned correctly. And if those opportunities had fully manifested, then they would not have produced what they were supposed to. So instead of partial outcomes, they were held back. Chosen one, this is where things begin to accelerate. Because what was paused is now being reactivated, and it does not return the same way it was originally scheduled. It returns with accumulation. It returns with adjustment. It returns with expansion. You may begin to notice unexpected openings, ideas that come with clarity instead of confusion, situations resolving in ways you did not anticipate, conversations that lead to opportunities you did not plan for, and it may feel almost too aligned, almost too precise, as if things are finally moving without resistance. That is because the resistance that once blocked it is no longer in position. And I need you to be aware of something in this moment. When this begins to happen, your instinct may be to question it, to slow it down, to analyze whether it is real or temporary. That is a natural response after a long season of inconsistency. But do not let past patterns cause you to reject present alignment. You are not in the same season anymore. The version of you that experienced those delays is not the same version of you standing here now. You have changed. Your awareness has changed. Your discernment has changed. And because of that, what is being released now will not be handled the same way it would have been handled before. This is not about sudden luck. This is about timing reaching its appointed moment, and what is unfolding right now is only the beginning of it. Because as these external shifts begin to take shape, there is something deeper happening within you at the same time, something that has nothing to do with what you gain, and everything to do with how you feel in your own body, your own energy, your own presence. And that is where the next shift begins to reveal itself. Chosen one, as these external doors begin to open, there is a deeper restoration happening within you that you cannot ignore, because for a long time your body has been carrying what your mind tried to push through. The last season did not just affect your circumstances, it affected your energy, your rest, your focus, and even the way you experienced your own strength. There were days where you kept going, but you were tired in a way that sleep could not fix. There were moments where your body felt heavy for no clear reason, where your mind stayed active, but your spirit felt drained. That was not weakness, and it was not lack of discipline. That was accumulation. When you walk through prolonged uncertainty, your body adapts to survival mode. It learns how to stay alert, how to anticipate disruption, how to function without full restoration. And after a while, that becomes your normal. You start thinking this is just how life feels. You tell yourself that this level of stress, this level of fatigue, this level of tension is something you just have to manage. But that was never meant to be permanent. I remember a period in my own life where I was constantly pushing forward, telling myself that if I just stayed consistent, things would eventually settle. But no matter how much I rested, I never felt fully restored. It was like something inside me never powered down, and it took time for me to realize that I was not just physically tired, I was carrying the residue of a season that had not yet released me. That is what is changing for you now. Chosen one. What is being activated is not just recovery, it is renewal. There is a difference. Recovery brings you back to where you were. Renewal brings you into a state you have not experienced before. And that is why this shift will feel unfamiliar at first. You may notice your energy returning in small but consistent ways. Mornings that feel lighter. Moments where your mind is quiet without effort. A sense of calm in situations that used to trigger tension. Your body will begin to respond differently, not because you forced it, but because it is no longer carrying what it was holding on to. This is not something you have to chase. It is something your system is already responding to. There will be a point where you realize that you are not reacting the same way you used to. Things that once overwhelmed you will not have the same effect. Conversations that used to drain you will feel neutral. Situations that once created anxiety will feel manageable. And you may pause and wonder what changed. What changed is that the pressure you were under is no longer active in the same way. Your body has been waiting for that signal. And as this restoration continues, it will not only affect how you feel, it will affect how you move. Because when your energy stabilizes, your decisions become clearer. You no longer operate from urgency or fear. You begin to choose from a place of alignment instead of reaction. This is where many people miss what is happening because they are so focused on external results that they overlook internal shifts. But your internal state is what determines how you sustain what is coming next. Chosen one, you are not just being prepared to receive more. You are being prepared to hold it without losing yourself in the process. Because there is another layer to this that you need to see clearly. For a long time, you have been asking a question, sometimes out loud, sometimes quietly within yourself. You have asked what your purpose is, what you are supposed to be doing, what direction you are meant to take, and the answer never seemed to come in a way that felt complete. You may have had ideas, moments of clarity, brief inspiration, but nothing that felt fully anchored. And after a while, that creates frustration. It creates doubt. It makes you wonder if you are missing something, if you are behind, if you should have figured it out by now. But what you did not realize is that the clarity you were searching for was not absent. It was simply not accessible yet. Because clarity without preparation can lead to misalignment. If you had received full direction earlier, you would have tried to act on it with a version of yourself that was still processing, still healing, still being shaped. And that would have created results that did not match what was intended. So instead of giving you partial clarity, it was held back until you could see it clearly and carry it correctly. Chosen one purpose is not something you stumble into randomly. It becomes clear when your experience, your ability, and your awareness reach a point where they align. And what you have been through was not separate from that. It was part of it. The things that challenged you, the situations that stretched you, the moments that forced you to adapt, all of it was building something within you that you now carry naturally. Skills you did not realize you were developing, strength you did not recognize at the time, awareness that only comes from going through something, not just learning about it. And now, as this next phase begins, you will start to see connections you could not see before. Ideas that once felt scattered will begin to come together. Directions that once felt unclear will start to make sense. You will notice that certain paths stand out more than others, not because someone told you to take them, but because they resonate in a way that feels grounded. It will not feel forced. It will feel familiar, like something you were always meant to step into, but could not fully access until now. And this clarity will not arrive all at once. It will unfold in moments. Conversations, realizations, opportunities that seem simple on the surface but carry deeper meaning, and the more you pay attention, the more it will build. You will start to trust your own sense of direction again, not based on pressure, not based on comparison, but based on alignment. And that is where everything begins to shift on a deeper level. Because once you begin to move with clarity, once your energy is stable, once your connections are aligned, something else begins to take place, something that is not just about what you gain, but about what becomes visible to others. Chosen one, as everything begins to align within you, there is a shift that will not stay hidden. It cannot stay hidden. Because when internal clarity meets external movement, it creates visible change. And this is the part that many people are not prepared for, not because it is difficult, but because it is undeniable. For a long time, you were in a position where your effort was not fully seen, your progress was not fully recognized, and your struggles were either misunderstood or overlooked. There were moments where you felt invisible in your own journey, like you were building something no one else could see. And in that space, it is easy to feel disconnected, to question whether anything you are doing is actually leading somewhere. But what you were building was not meant to be displayed in that season. It was meant to be developed without interference. Now that you have reached this point, what was developed in private is starting to show in public. Not through announcements, not through explanation, but through presence. The way you carry yourself will feel different. The way you respond will feel different. The way you make decisions will reflect a level of clarity that others cannot ignore. And people will notice. Some will notice quietly. Some will not say anything but will observe the shift. Others will try to understand it, asking questions, trying to figure out what changed. And a few will feel unsettled by it, not because you did anything wrong, but because your growth disrupts their expectations. Chosen one. This is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about the natural result of alignment becoming visible. There is a moment in every transformation where the internal work reaches a point where it can no longer stay internal. It begins to express itself, and when it does, it creates contrast. People who knew you before will see the difference. Situations that used to affect you will no longer have the same influence. Patterns that once repeated will stop repeating, and that contrast will speak louder than any explanation you could give. I remember when this shift happened in my own life. There was no single event that marked it. It was gradual but noticeable. Conversations changed. The way people approached me changed. Opportunities started to come in ways that felt more aligned. And at first I did not fully understand it. I kept thinking something external had changed. But what changed was internal, and everything else responded to that. That is what you are stepping into. Chosen one. There is something else you need to be aware of as this unfolds. Not everyone who was present in your previous season will be present in this one. And this is not something to resist or question. It is something to recognize. Because as your alignment shifts, your environment adjusts. Some connections will naturally fall away, not through conflict, not through dramatic endings, but through distance. Conversations will become less frequent. Priorities will no longer match. What once felt engaging will feel neutral, and you may find yourself wondering if you should try to maintain those connections. But you cannot carry everything forward. Growth requires separation, not as a loss, but as a refinement. And when you allow that process to happen, without forcing what no longer fits, you create space for what is aligned to enter. This is where many people hesitate because letting go of familiarity can feel uncomfortable even when it is necessary. But holding on to what is no longer aligned creates resistance within your own progress. Chosen one. You are not meant to stay in environments that reflect who you used to be. You are meant to move into environments that support who you are becoming. And as this happens, there will also be moments where people from your past become aware of your current position. Not because you reached out, not because you tried to show them anything, but because alignment has a way of becoming visible beyond your immediate environment. A message, a mention, a conversation that carries your name into spaces you are not actively in. And when that happens, it creates a moment of recognition for those who once knew you differently. Some will feel respect, some will feel surprise, some will feel regret, but all of them will see the difference. And here is what you need to understand clearly. This is not about validation. It is not about proving that you were right or that they were wrong. It is not about revisiting what has already passed. It is simply the natural result of your growth reaching a point where it becomes undeniable. Chosen one. When you move forward correctly, you do not need to revisit the past to confirm anything. The present speaks for itself. There is a concept that is often misunderstood. People think that being seen means being acknowledged verbally, being recognized openly. But true recognition does not always come through words. It comes through awareness. People will become aware of your position, your stability, your clarity, without you needing to explain it. And that awareness carries weight, because it shows what consistency produces. It shows what alignment creates over time. It shows that what seemed uncertain at one point was actually developing into something solid. And that realization will reach people in different ways. Some will respect it from a distance. Some will reflect on their own decisions. Some will wish they had responded differently when you were in a different place. But your role in that is not to respond to their reactions. Your role is to remain aligned with where you are now. Because the moment you shift your focus back to the past, you interrupt the momentum of what is unfolding in the present. Chosen one. Your movement forward is not dependent on anyone else's recognition. It is sustained by your alignment. And as long as you stay in that alignment, everything that is meant to continue building in your life will do so without resistance. This is where things become steady, not rushed, not forced, but consistent. And in that consistency, there is a level of peace that you may not have experienced before. A sense that things are no longer fragile, no longer dependent on external conditions, but grounded in something stable. And that stability is what allows the next phase to unfold without disruption. Because what is coming next is not just about what is visible to others. It is about how you fully step into what has already been positioned for you and what it requires from you moving forward. Chosen one. Now that everything is moving into alignment, there is something you must understand clearly, because this is where many people either sustain what is unfolding or slowly disconnect from it without realizing why. What is being opened in your life is not automatic. It is available, it is active, but it still requires your participation. There is a difference between something being released and something being received. You can stand in the middle of opportunity and still hesitate. You can recognize change and still resist it internally. You can feel that something is shifting and still default to old patterns out of habit. And that is where alignment either deepens or begins to drift. Because for the last several years you adapted to a different way of living. You learned how to operate with less clarity, less stability, less consistency. You became resourceful in uncertainty. You learned how to manage situations that did not fully support you. And while those skills helped you survive, they are not meant to define how you move forward. Now you are in a different position, but your mind and your habits may still carry pieces of that previous season. I experienced this myself when things first began to shift in my life. Opportunities started to appear, situations began to stabilize, but internally I was still operating like things could fall apart at any moment. I would hesitate before making decisions, question whether something would last, hold back even when everything in front of me was aligned. It took time for me to realize that I was still responding from a season that had already ended. Chosen one. You cannot fully step into what is being released if you continue to think from what has already passed. This is where your awareness becomes essential. You have to notice when you are holding back unnecessarily. You have to recognize when doubt is not intuition, but habit. You have to allow yourself to respond to what is in front of you, not what used to happen. Because what is unfolding now is not fragile in the way your past experiences were. It is structured differently. It is supported differently. It is aligned in a way that does not require you to constantly prepare for disruption. And that is where trust comes in, not blind trust, not forced belief, but grounded trust based on what you can now observe. You will start to see consistency where there was once inconsistency. You will start to see follow-through where there was once uncertainty. You will start to see results that match your effort in a way that feels balanced. And when that happens, you need to allow yourself to move with it. Chosen one, do not shrink back when things begin to work. Do not question every aligned moment as if it needs to be tested before you accept it. Do not delay your own progress by waiting for something to go wrong before you fully engage. This is not about rushing. It is about responding. Because there is also a timing element to what is happening. Not everything will arrive at once, but everything that is meant to unfold will do so in sequence. And your ability to move with that sequence determines how smoothly it continues. If you hesitate too long, you create unnecessary pauses. If you overanalyze every step, you slow down momentum that is already established. But when you stay present, when you respond with clarity, when you move without forcing but also without holding back, things begin to build naturally. This is where your role becomes active. You are not trying to make things happen. You are allowing what is happening to continue, and that requires a shift in how you see yourself. For a long time, you may have seen yourself as someone trying to reach stability, trying to figure things out, trying to get to a place where things make sense. But that is not where you are anymore. You are now in a position where things are beginning to organize around you, not because you forced them, but because you stayed consistent through the process. Chosen one, you are no longer chasing alignment. you are maintaining it. And maintaining it does not require constant effort. It requires awareness and consistency in how you respond. There will be moments where old thoughts try to return, moments where you question whether things will continue the way they are, moments where you feel the urge to hold back just to be safe. When that happens, pause and recognize what is actually in front of you. Look at what is currently stable. Look at what is currently working. Look at what is currently aligned. Let your present reality inform your response, not your past experience. Because the more you anchor yourself in what is happening now, the less influence the previous season will have on your decisions. And as you continue to move in this way, something else begins to take shape, something that is not just about maintaining what you have, but about expanding into what is still ahead. Because what has been released so far is not the full picture. It is the beginning. There are still aspects of your life that are waiting to fully activate areas that will open as you continue to move forward, not through force, but through alignment. Chosen one. As everything comes together, there is one final understanding that brings clarity to this entire process. And it is this: nothing that happened to you over the past years was wasted, misplaced, or outside of purpose. It may have felt that way while you were in it. It may have looked like loss, delay, or even misdirection. But now that you can see the pattern forming, you begin to understand that every part of it contributed to where you are standing now. Because what you are stepping into is not just a better version of what you had before, it is a more complete version of yourself. And that changes everything. You are no longer trying to recover what was lost. You are no longer trying to recreate what once worked. You are not going back to anything that has already ended. You are moving into something that was built with everything you have now become. That is why it feels different. That is why it does not require the same struggle. That is why it carries a level of clarity that was not present before. Chosen one. This is what alignment actually looks like. Not perfection, not constant ease, but a sense that things are no longer working against you in the same way. A sense that your effort is now being met with movement. A sense that what you are building is not temporary, but sustainable. And when you reach this point, there is a quiet confidence that begins to settle in. Not loud, not forced, but steady. You no longer feel the need to prove anything. You no longer feel the urgency to explain yourself. You move with intention, and that intention carries more weight than anything you could say. I remember when I first recognized this shift in my own life. It was not a major event that made it clear. It was the absence of resistance that stood out. Situations that used to require effort began to flow. Decisions that once felt complicated became simple. And I realized that I was no longer navigating chaos. I was moving within structure. That is where you are now. And with that comes responsibility, not in a heavy or overwhelming sense, but in a grounded awareness of how you continue forward. You do not return to what you have outgrown. You do not reattach yourself to what no longer aligns. You do not second-guess what has already been confirmed through experience. You stay present, you stay aware, and you continue moving with what is in front of you. Chosen one. There is also something else you need to hold on to as you move forward. Not everyone will fully understand your journey, and they do not need to. There will always be people who only saw parts of your process, who only understand fragments of what you went through. Some will interpret your current position based on what they think they know. Others will compare it to their own experience without seeing the full context. But your clarity does not depend on their understanding. Your alignment does not require their agreement. You have lived through what they did not see. You have carried what they did not feel. And because of that, you have a level of awareness that is yours alone. That is enough. And as you continue forward, there is a quiet expansion that will keep unfolding. Not all at once, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a steady progression that continues to build on what has already been established. New opportunities will continue to emerge. New connections will continue to form. New levels of clarity will continue to develop, and each of these will feel like a natural extension of what is already in motion, not something separate or disconnected. Chosen One. This is what it means when something has been prepared correctly. It integrates into your life without forcing you to become someone else to hold it. You do not have to change who you are to maintain what is coming. You only need to continue being aligned with what you have already become. And as you do that, you will start to recognize something that may have been difficult to see before. You were never forgotten. Not in the moments where things felt uncertain. Not in the times where nothing seemed to move. Not in the periods where you questioned whether anything was actually progressing. Everything was accounted for. Everything was positioned. Everything was timed. And now you are experiencing the part of the process where it becomes visible. So as you move forward from here, keep it simple. Stay aware of what is aligned. Stay present with what is unfolding. Stay grounded in what you now understand. Because you are not starting over. You are continuing from a point that was carefully built over time, and everything that is meant to continue building from here is already in motion. Chosen One, receive this moment for what it truly is. This is not the end of a message. This is the confirmation of a shift that has already begun in your life. You are not waiting anymore. You are standing in your Kairos moment, the appointed time where what was written begins to unfold without delay. What was preserved has now been released. What was held back is now moving toward you with precision. Anointed One, you did not miss your season. You were being positioned for it. So walk forward with peace in your mind, clarity in your decisions, and confidence in your spirit. You do not have to force anything from here. You only need to stay aligned with what is already opening before you. Let gratitude lead you. Let awareness guide you. And let your actions reflect the understanding that you are no longer in a season of waiting, but in a season of receiving. If this word has settled in your spirit, you can seal it simply. Write Amen, or it is time in the comments, not as a habit, but as a declaration that you recognize what is happening. And if you feel led, stay connected here, because there are still messages meant to meet you exactly where you are as this continues to unfold. Chosen One. What has your name on it will find you, and what is already in motion will not be reversed.